Conan, the gemologist.
Hey, welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I think I should open this package and then do a mini review of it before I get too many packages, and then I just do an unboxing. So I got this book from Amazon, it looks like. Ordered a lot of stuff from Amazon, so I'm not sure exactly what it is. But I'm trying to shore up some of my collections, so I think I might suspect what this might be. I suspect what this might be. All right. This is the tear thing. And it opens, and it is in shrink wrap, and it is Conan, Robert E. Howard's Conan, for a supplement for the Conan role-playing game, playing in Hyperborea in an age undreamed of by Modiphius. Unfortunately, this game is, they've lost the license Modiphius has, and it's going somewhere else. But I wanted to short my collection. I have everything in PDF, because when I did the Kickstarter, I did all PDFs and a couple books. But this is Conan the King for 2D20. So it has a picture of Conan on the cover, having killed some sort of big lizard thing. He's got a shield and a sword. Actually, it looks like the Atlantean sword, or his that he found perhaps in the movie. And it does look some sort of dragon if it's winged. Actually, it looks like this creature. It's got his horned helmet, furs, muscled thews, bare-chested with a chain skirt. And this is Conan the King. It has characters from noble homelands, noble castes. So it's like the Nobles book character archetypes it adds to. A gazetteer of Aquilonia, events of the court and events of the kingdoms, natural events, unnatural events, the end of an era. So there is a way you could do like the end of Aquilonia, or the end of the Hyborian Age, maybe. Myth and magic, encounters, a thing on Hither Came Conan, which is always fun to look at, like the stats of Conan at this level. I'm going to check that out. Wealth and holdings, and then the Road of Kings, war against the different kingdoms, maybe internecine war, making an empire, scheming and plotting, feudalism, the cosmopolitan city, carousing at court, kingdom management, and war. Then Heroes of the Age, it has some of the backers, they put themselves in there, or they were able to design characters, which is kind of cool. And let's see Hither Came Conan on page 74. Ooh, it has Zaltun, has various nemesis. Count Tricero, he's not a bad guy. Queen Zenobia is in here. Interesting. And then Hither Came Conan, talks about the Phoenix and the Sword, the Scarlet Citadel, the Hour of the Dragon, which is one of my favorite novellas of all time. I've read it multiple times. And then it has the stats for Conan the King, which is kind of cool. I guess it talks about the children of Conan. This is pretty interesting. While Robert Howard never depicted Conan's eventual fate and left the matter of succession undescribed, he was clear in his belief that Conan did not die childless. In a letter to a good friend, P. Schuler Miller, Howard stated Conan was about 40 when he seized the crown of Aquilonia, about 44 or 45 at the time of the Hour of the Dragon. He had no male heir at the time because he had never bothered to make someone a queen, and the sons of concubines, which he had a goodly number, were not recognized as heirs to the throne. Rather than a single lawful and legally entitled heir, the Baron King has many illegitimate heirs. Perhaps later in life, after marrying Zenobia, he produced a legitimate heir and groomed the children for the throne. Interesting. But he has many. But the heir would have many half brothers and half sisters, bastard born, etc. So it could be very interesting for intrigues for the Sons of Conan. That'd be kind of a fun little campaign, right? The Sons of Conan. What would happen after that? I'm going to look at the end of an era. What does that say? End of an era. I was curious. With Conan the King, the career of the legendary thief, wanderer, and conqueror comes to a close, but the tale of his age does not. In the Hyborian Age, Howard described the events after Conan's time and how the world, as it inevitably does, turned from civilization to barbarism. In his history, the Hyborian kingdoms meet their end not from decaying values and civilization, but from greed and overreach. Aquilonia is a primary engine for this overreach, and as she begins to expand, she turns her neighbors into vassals. Only in the media consistently stands against the might of the phoenix. So pretty cool. Yeah, interesting. I'll have to read through that. That sounds pretty cool. Oh, and there's something about it's actually this little chapter goes on. It's like talks about that, like what happens, the end of an era, the gods at the end, and the post-Hyborian world, which could be fun too. So then you make your own world, right, in a barbaric time. Neat stuff. I'll probably, well, I don't know. I'll look. Is it worth reviewing? I don't know. Maybe this will just be part of something else. Maybe if we talk about sword and sorcery, how that. Um, I'm playing Reaver this week, so maybe it'll come in conjunction with a Reaver recap. And we can talk about sword and sorcery and sword and sorcery world building, and especially that last part, that cataclysm part, or conflict, or where everything goes from civilization to barbarism. Pretty interesting. All right, talk to you soon. So let's take a look at Conan the King in more depth. There are 9 chapters, not including the introduction. The first chapter is characters, where they talk about nobles, noble homelands, their castes, their stories, the archetypes that you can have, new talents, noble natures, noble education, court stories, finishing touches, and then gear and equipment. So that first chapter is all about the story path style of character generation that the Conan 2D20 system uses. So I do like the Conan 2D20 system. I know it's an earlier incarnation of the Modiphius 2D20, so it has a lot of has more granularity than the later editions. For example, but that usually is only, I feel like you only find that in equipment, although in character creation, the separation of expertise and focus is there, and later incarnations of the 2D20 system that is not as clear cut. The idea of expertise and focus. They do have like all these talents and talent trees, which I think is kind of neat. And then they describe the different natures, etc. And the court stories are always the fun part. What happens during like their quote unquote term. I really feel like a lot of the 2D20 story path system kind of harkens, or I don't. It definitely probably has its inspiration in like the old Traveler character creation system. And then you have like finishing touches, and then you get ready to go. There's some new equipment. They even have titles as well, so that's the following thing. Chapter 2 is a gazetteer, strictly of Aquilonia, and they talk about being Aquilonia, Aquilonian rulers. There's a little paragraph or 4 on Aquilonia before Conan, and then Aquilonia under. There's a whole like a side page of Aquilonia under Conan's rule, the usurper king. Conan ascends to the throne as an usurper, having served as a general in Aquilonia's army. He comes at a time when a weak, seemingly fatuous king has squandered his father's goodwill, such as it was. Numenides sits upon the throne. He is soft, a civilized man who has known little of the toil in his time. He taxes a people ruthlessly and pays the dividends to himself and the nobles. Numenides' constant wars cost money and provide little in return, until Conan comes along. It says here, through guile and sheer will, Conan slays the disliked king and takes the crown. Almost immediately afterward, he finds himself fighting to hold the throne. Lots of conspirators, Bright Phoenix and the Sword. Then, of course, the Hour of the Dragon. There's a lot of Nemedian influence at a court that has apparently had infiltrated its way into the Aquilonian court, and they're not happy. They also have a lost prince of Aquilonia, and they work in concert to conjure up the devil of Archeron. I don't know if that is part of the Hour of the Dragon, and they invade Aquilonia from within and without. So anyway, pretty neat. It talks about how he builds an empire and then his death, also on this page, which is kind of neat. Aquilonian military, worship of Mitra, the cult of Bori and the cult of Azura, how they deal with the Picts. The 500 Years War, I guess that is with Nemedia. So I guess you could do like 100 Years War type of thing between Aquilonia and Nemedia. Maybe Aquilonia is like British and Nemedia is like French. So that means that Nemedia wins in the end. And his Conan, a problematic king, another sidebar. So pretty interesting. The ruins of Archeron. I guess Archeron used to be a political entity where ruins must be scattered among Aquilonia and Nemedia. So pretty neat. Cultural rivalry, Aquilonian geography. It's kind of a gazetteer of the cities and the provinces. A little brief history of Tarantia, the capital. So pretty cool. Oh, Societies of Aquilonia is in here too. The Knights of Potain, the Black Dragons, the Troubadours. How to become a Black Dragon. So if you would want to become, that'd be kind of a cool thing to do, is to become a Black Dragon. These were the right. They're the ones. They're the kind of Conan's royal guard in a way. Aquilonian ruins, and then you have like events at court. There's even something on courtly love, so you can do your sex moves. War and preparation for war, and then events of the kingdom and what happens on the throne, etc. Oh, and the cool thing is, so they describe these, and then they have like the tables and how to use tables to do that. What's the nature of the event? Is it no event? So on the nature of the events, the first table you'd roll a no event, intrigue, war, a natural, roll twice. That's a d20. Everything's d20, and then there's 1, 2, 3 tables: intrigue, war, and unnatural events. Let me see. On the war events, barbarians harry a remote border of the kingdom. A rival king died, leaving a great internecine struggle for the kingdom. There's a couple ideas. Unnatural. What's unnatural? Black lotus dreams are blamed for a rival king's madness, but something darker lurks beneath. That's something. One of them. An elder god has a cult growing in popularity among the peasants and aristocracy alike. That'd be kind of cool. That could be the Black Pharaoh. Well, it would be Arthur. That seems like, or even the Yellow King. That could be peasants as the beggar king and aristocracy as an alternate king. So you could definitely see how that could come about. Intrigue events. Members of the aristocracy plot against the ruler. A member of the court is kidnapped or turns traitor. Those are some of the events there. And then I guess you use them to play out. Oh, it does give it just gives more detail on some of these events. I did talk about end of an era earlier, which I think is kind of cool. Myths and magic. So in there, magic and poetry, the question of lineage, the sorcerer's patron. So I guess the heart of Ahriman. So I guess it talks about just magic in general in Aquilonia, and the tales there for that can influence Aquilonia. Encounters has a set of creatures and adversaries. Oh, it's a vampire plant. Winged Night Mount. And then it has NPCs that you could run into. There's an undead sage. They do have a black dragon statted out. So when you piss off Conan, sends the black dragons after you. Kings and courts of the dreaming West. So they talk about, rather than detail all the kings and lords of the West, here are descriptions for such allies and foes. These represent a mean of their abilities possessed by such noble rulers and do not supersede names entries in this or other Conan source books. So they have for Aquilonia, all the different lords of Aquilonia, lords and ladies of Aquilonia that you might encounter, counts and countesses. For example, Albiona, the countess noblewoman loyal to Conan. Then Koth, adversaries, so Almeric, prince of Koth, rebel prince. Nemedia, they have different Numa, the king of Nemedia. Tarascus also. becomes king after Zoltan kills his predecessor with a plague. There you go. Ophir also. So all these kingdoms that could rival Aquilonia, they have like who the movers and shakers are in the different kingdoms. So more NPCs. This is a pretty long chapter. It even has Zaltuton. Do they have? I don't know if they have. They have Valerius also, and Zaltuton. I did not see that they had. Maybe they do earlier. They have. No, I don't see that they have. Yeah, they do have the Red Priest as well, but I forget his name. The one that helps to raise Zaltuton. Anyway, cool stuff. They have the King Tarat. So you could run the whole Hour of the Dragon or what happens. We've talked about Hither Came Conan, and Wealth and Holdings is chapter 7. And that talks about, as a noble, how much you got, what you got, where it is, how to receive income. And then chapter 8 is a Road of Kings. What if you were to become the ruler? Will you usurp the throne from Conan's sons? So that's kind of interesting. The weight of the crown, playing during Conan's rule, making an empire. So it definitely is a different type of book from the other Conan books in that you have like an idea of domain play kind of set down. They have the different, they have like a feudalism in the kingdoms and their politics, including Aquilonia, Bithynia, Corinthia, Koth, Nemedia, Ophir, and Stygia even, and Turan. So, and then cosmopolitans and cities. Oh, a carousing table for the court, if you want to carouse at court. So for player characters embarking on a drinking binge with those at the court, it can be used by any player character in place of the standard carousing table found in the Conan book. So there definitely is an idea of gaining a bunch of money on an adventure and then losing it all through carousing. Kingdom management. So there's your... So which is pretty... So it's like even more in detailed about, how you do the domain play with the different factions, legitimacy, dominion, tests, factions, powers, and governing by consent, what challenges you would have, events that could happen, and then war. So, and how to run. So this is kind of interesting. So this is war is essentially a struggle between power blocks. And these rules do not attempt to replicate the detail or complexity of an actual war, but instead abstract the elements of army order and outcome to determine a final victor. So rallying the troops, issuing orders, holding the reins, compare coalition power, and then there's a kingdom worksheet to do that. And then, so they have like examples of armies of the Hyperborean age for Aquilonia, Nemedia, other Hyperborean kingdoms, Koth, Hyborian kingdoms, that is, Stygia, Turan, Barbarians, and Hyrcanians. So they have kind of the idea what kind of troops you might have. And then the last chapter is, so during the course of the Kickstarter, they had people, if they went to it, if they pledged at a certain level, they could propose NPCs or put themselves in as NPCs, and those are the last 2 pages. So very interesting book. I think it definitely expands upon the verse of the Hyborian age and Conan, and I do like that it already has inspired me for some ideas if I ever get 2D20 Conan to the table, and how to play under Conan or after Conan, or while he's usurping the throne. So do you become fellow Black Dragons, or do you become Black Dragons with Conan as his honor guard, or are you opposed to Conan's rule? So very interesting choices for player characters, and there's a lot of stuff other than Phoenix and the Sword and Hour of the Dragon. Right, it's pretty open. So maybe one could run through Hour of the Dragon, and where do the player characters fall? What do they do when Conan goes missing. Are they there at the various events where Conan, overcomes, is hindered, takes over, um, is defeated, right, initially. So pretty cool stuff. I hope you've enjoyed my mini review. See if you can find a copy. It's a nice book. I think it expands definitely just in general with the kingdom and domain play in the Hyboria in Conan's what is it called? Conan, an Age Undreamed of, the Conan 2D20 Hyborian Age role-playing game. All right. Well, I apologize for being absent for a few weeks, especially with the mini review Mondays. I do have a lot of backlog and things that I recorded I just haven't gotten to. But I'm hoping that you stayed on until now and have really enjoyed my mini review of Conan the King by Modifius for their Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed of 2D20 system. And yeah, so if you want to comment on this or any of my other past back catalog podcasts, you can do so by leaving me a message on SpeakPipe or recording a message and leaving it for me on Discord or sending it to geomologist@gmail.com. With the recent transition of Spotify podcasters or Anchor to Spotify, to whatever it's called now, Podcasters by Spotify. I think that's what it's called. I don't know if you can go to the website and still leave a message, or if you can leave a message on Spotify, or maybe they've reinstituted the feature where you can leave a message directly from Podcasters by Spotify, formerly Anchor. All right. Well, thank you again for listening. TJ Drennan does the intro and outro music. My wife Amy usually does the cover clip art, but today it is the cover of Conan the King by Simon Bisley. And yeah, thanks for listening. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.